It is really a great day to be with you all. It's a great day for Delaware's climate, not only because we have 83-degree weather, but today we have a number of some incredible bills that the governor will be signing. One of those will align us with the goal of President Joe Biden's administration, which to achieve at least 50% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030 and net zero by 2050. And we affirm our, yes. And we affirm our commitment to doing our part to reduce the global threat of climate change. I've been asked if we can reach a 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and a net zero emissions by 2050. My answer to that has been yes. It is ambitious, but attainable. Currently, we have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 27% from 2005 baseline by 2018, and we expect updated numbers later this year. Now that we have the climate action plan that the governor announced in November of 2021 as our playbook, we have our GPS to get us to 2030 and 2050. The plan is a product of considerable outreach, including environmental, business, and community stakeholders. The plan lays out broad strategies and specific actions for reducing emissions and for improving our adaptation and resiliency to the climate impacts we are already experiencing as the lowest lying state in the nation. Those impacts include sea level rise, increased temperatures and more frequent intense storms and flooding, saltwater intrusion, health impacts in urban areas from excessive heat, vector-borne diseases from ticks and mosquitoes, just to name a few. Delaware Climate Solutions Act follows the guiding principles laid out in the Climate Action Plan. As I said, it ensures climate action is ambitious yet attainable. It ensures climate action accounts for all costs and benefits, and ensures climate action is engaged, empowering, and equitable. I thank the business and agricultural and environmental communities and everyone else who attended meetings or provided comments that helped shape the final version of this act. As we work towards reaching the goals outlined in Climate Solution Act, we will continue to seek input from stakeholders across the spectrum with a continued awareness for the impacts on traditionally overburdened and underserved communities. When we release the Climate Action Plan, we recognize it as a living document, and the Climate Solution Act builds on that idea. The plan outlines how we can build on existing programs, and it provides insights and scientific data to show the benefits and the costs of additional actions and inaction. Some of the bills being signed today build on existing programs, such as codifying the Clean Vehicle Rebate Program. Since it began in 2015, the program has provided more than $9 million in rebates to more than 4,000 electric vehicle buyers. Other bills being signed today will move us forward in our efforts to reduce emissions, including transitioning our school buses to electric, making sure new residential homes are wired to accept electric vehicle charging equipment, and ensuring that new commercial buildings of 50,000 square feet or more are solar ready. DENREC's Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy, which houses the state's energy office, has been doing extensive work on the future of offshore wind in Delaware. SB 170 provides a framework to report out on that work. Our energy needs are changing as we transition to renewable sources and place more demands on our energy grid. We need to be prepared to meet those demands. Adding additional resources to our energy office and the reconstitution and expansion of the Governor's Energy Advisory Council will move us forward with our work, updating our state's energy plan. That plan will guide our actions to ensure grid stability, reliable energy for all Delawareans. The bills being signed today and others that passed in the latest legislative session will continue to move Delaware forward towards our emission reduction goals. I want to thank our senators and representatives for working and supporting them and seeing them through the passage. I also want to take this opportunity, first time I've been able to say it publicly, I thank the Speaker of the House for all her leadership. At the same time, we know we have a lot of work to do. Funding through the Federal Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law is providing a boost to several initiatives, including the Weatherization Assistance Program, energy efficiency and conservation block grants, and the state's energy program. In partnership with DelDOT, we are expanding our electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the state. We are also expanding our use of clean and renewable energy, implementing energy efficiency measures, and reducing emissions from transportation. But mostly we're committed to our goals. I think that was to tell me I have to wrap it up. Mostly we are committed to our goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. I thank you all for being here, and now it's my distinct honor to turn the podium over to our Governor, John Carney, who about 6 years ago said to me, climate change is one of the highest priorities we need to focus on, and we've been seeing through ever since. Governor, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. First of all, how many people have been here in this park before? Put your hands up. Almost everybody. What a great place. And by the way, I don't know, Ray Bivens is not here, but I want to recognize Ray and all the folks at Parks for the great work that they do. You may know or may remember that just a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, Delaware's park system was recognized with the gold medal among the best park systems in our state, and that's really, really special. I had a set of prepared remarks, and I walked into the podium, and I saw this little baby in the back, and then I saw Ted Becker come all the way up from Lewis, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I just want to say, when you're governor, you don't get to do many things individually, almost nothing. But you do get the opportunity to help other people do things, whether it's the Secretary of Natural Resources and Environmental Control and his whole team, whether it's advocates, many of whom are here under this podium who've been working on this for so long, whether it's legislators, some who are brand new, and we don't have many that have been here a long time, but and others who've been here a longer. And what occurred to me is that this challenge is one of those challenges that is going to take all of us. When I was in the U.S. House of Representatives, a pretty unproductive time, I might add. But the Speaker of the House at the time was a guy by the name of John Boehner. And he wrote a book about his tenure there. And he answered some of the criticism he received by kind of the far right of his caucus pushing the agenda. And his response was this: a leader without followers is just somebody out for a walk, right? When we had COVID-19 in the pandemic, and I and all the folks at the Division of Public Health were trying to get all of you to do things you did not want to do. That's really hard. This is going to be one of those challenges. We have a great climate action plan. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. There are lots of details there, those were my prepared remarks. I threw those aside. Lots of details, particularly on the strategies that are outlined here. These bills that we're going to sign today put meat on those bones, starting with HB 99. And I just want to thank all the people, the sponsors in particular, Deb and Senator Hansen, for your tremendous work in engaging everyone. Because guess what? We can lead all we want on that. But if people aren't following us, we're not going to make progress. And I think both of you understand that. And that was an important part of the success of this bill. That sets the framework. Reminds me of the old bumper sticker. You've heard me say it before. Most of you are too young to remember. Think globally, act locally. Think globally, act locally. This, climate change and addressing it, is one of those challenges where we're not going to solve it right here in Little Delaware, right? But we can participate. We can be part of the movement to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which come primarily from two sources: electricity generation, which we don't generate enough electricity for our whole state anyway. We're an importer of electricity, and transportation. And these bills really set the table for that, particularly HB 99. And so we're doing this, certainly not doing it for me, but where's that little baby in the back? Could you hold her up? Well, we're doing this for her. The baby's attached. We're doing it for her and that generation and some of the younger ones' generation here. Now, let me close by introducing the next speaker and first thanking her for her years of leadership. When I came in and I saw her, I said, have you got understands that if you're going to make progress, you got to have people who are following. If you're going to be a leader, you have to have followers. And I know all the rest of the legislators who are here are the same type, and I want to thank all of you for attending, thank all of you for your support of the legislation that we're signing today. And with that, I'd like to introduce and bring to the podium the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House.
First of all, thank you, Governor. And first, this should say Delaware is fighting climate change, not fighting climate change in Delaware. Delaware is leading the charge on fighting climate change. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I love coming to bill signings where there's actually more people than there are press. So that means that this day is very important. It's very historic. I also want to thank the governor and Sean for leading the path on the environmental and your package, your Delaware Climate Action Plan. It's a bold plan, and it's a great plan, and you've done a tremendous job. And what we are doing today is we're building on what you've already established. I could tell you last year I sat down with my staff to talk about what we could do in Delaware in the House of Representatives to advance climate change. And I have to tell you, if John Patterson, I don't know where you are, you should not be in the back row. You need to come forward for a minute. This guy, come on up here. This guy is amazing. He worked with me as in LA, and now he's in policy in the House of Representatives. And he came together and put a package of bills that were just unbelievable. And you worked all last summer on it. So I just want to thank you, because we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for your leadership and what you did for us. So thank you. You could stay here. I always like. Second of all, I just want to welcome you to Representative Eric Morrison's district. This is his district, so I know that this man is happy that we're signing these bills in his district. So I'm glad to see you here today. Also want to thank Krista Griffith, who's here, who's one of the bill sponsors in the House, Representative Ozinski, and Representative Deb Heffernan, who is the Chair of Natural Resources. And then we have Ms. Phillips. Representative Phillips. She is new to our caucus, but when she came in and I first met her, I said, what are your initiatives? What do you want to accomplish? And she said, climate change and the environment. And those were her number one priorities. And I think that you will see today, her first bill that she gets assigned today is exactly what she set out to do and what she told her constituents she was going to do. So Sophie, I'm so excited to be here today to sign your first bill into law. And it to be for the environment. So I also want to thank Dustin Thompson, we brought him into our office to talk to him about our bills, and he was 100% on board, and we worked between the governor's office and the advocates to make sure that these bills got done. And it is historic, and it is important to the state of Delaware, because we got these bills just a few months ago. We were up here announcing in Legislative Hall a package of bills that we wanted to get passed, and we did it. We did it. I also didn't see our House Majority Whip, Carrie Evelyn Harris, is here today also. So we thank her for being here. Sorry I didn't see you. Senate, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. You guys got it. Stephanie Hanson's great. She's always has been an environmentalist from day one. She's probably the lead in both the House and the Senate. This is her passion. And Senator Sarah McBride, who is constant on the cusp of everything that's going on in our state. But I just want to thank you all for coming here today. It's an important day. It's a monumental day, and Delaware is fighting the climate change, and we're going to continue to do it. Although we're signing these bills today, I expect us to have a whole package of bills next year because we're going to continue the fight. So thank you for coming today, and thank you to all of you sponsors.
First up is the main sponsor of House Bill 99, Deb Heffernan.
No, I'm okay. Well, as I'm looking at my remarks, I think there's a whole page missing, but that's okay because we don't need it to be that long. I wanted to say first, thank you all for coming to celebrate with us today. I'm so happy to be standing here with so many champions and defenders of our environment. 3 months ago, as the Madam Speaker told us, we stood on the House floor to announce an ambitious package of bills designed to tackle the very real, very imminent threat of climate change. We knew we had a difficult road ahead of us, but we pushed and fought, and today we're here to see 7 bills signed into law. These bills are part of a smart, bold environmental policy that will protect Delaware's natural resources and help secure our planet's future. The centerpiece to this package is the Delaware Climate Solutions Act, which is one of the most ambitious efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the country. HB 99 uses a whole-of-government approach to aggressively reduce net emissions by 50% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. The state will draft, implement, and regularly update a climate action plan. Now is when I have to hold this up. Like everybody else. Climate action plan that will guide state agencies to meet these goals. The Climate Solutions Act is our roadmap. It sends ambitious but attainable targets that will be key in fighting climate change and protecting our natural resources. I'm excited to see this bill signed into law and signal our commitment to fighting climate change in Delaware. Other bills we pass this year will help us to meet those aggressive goals in reducing emissions, such as HB 10, which I sponsored, which will require the state to increase the number of electric school buses we purchase each year. Buses are among the worst polluters on our roads, and with the state owning about 500 buses, we play an important part in the solution. We also know that solar power is one of the cleanest forms of renewable energy out there. So we are making sure businesses are better prepared to utilize it with HB 11, which requires new commercial buildings with a footprint of 50,000 square feet or greater to ensure their roof is able to support solar infrastructure. Retrofitting buildings for solar infrastructure is much more cost intensive, and by planning ahead, we can save valuable resources and ensure our buildings stand the test of time. And now I'd like to turn things over to my colleague in this effort, someone who represents the next generation of environmental leaders in our state, Representative Sophie Phillips.
Thank you all for being here today, and thank you to my colleagues for all of your hard work to make today happen. As a wildlife ecologist and an environmental justice advocate, I have a firsthand view of the impacts of climate change on our ecosystems and our communities. To anyone who follows the news, recent headlines have been alarming. From extreme heat and wildfires to coral bleaching and devastating floods, climate change is no longer just something to be feared in the future. We're feeling the destructive impacts of it today. For my generation, the climate crisis is extra scary because what we do now is going to define our future. Climate change is even an important factor in deciding whether or not to have children. However, doom and gloom is not going to help us solve the crisis. Bills like the ones we're discussing today are part of the solution. Electrifying our transportation sector is just one piece of the puzzle. My first bill, HB 12, codifies an existing clean vehicle rebate program and expands the rebate to used vehicles. It's important to me that we added used cars into this program, as nearly 3/4 of car sales are used vehicles, and lower income Delawareans are more likely to buy used. This bill makes electric vehicles more accessible, not just to those who can buy a new Tesla, but also those who can buy a used Chevy Bolt. Today is special to me because my first bill is being signed into law, but is even more special. Today is even more special because of the overall importance of this momentous occasion, and I look forward to coming back next year for the signing of our next slate of environmental bills. Now, I'd like to introduce Senator Stephanie Hansen, who's been an honor to work with and has been taking the lead on energy and environmental policy in our state for a long time.
In case you didn't notice, Representative Phillips used her cell phone for her notes, and I turned to Sean, and Sean said I couldn't even read the cell phone.
Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction as well. You know, our lieutenant governor has a really great way of doing the Behavioral Health Consortium. This is a large group that she leads on some very important addiction and recovery issues. And she always starts every meeting with with someone that's there that represents a story about recovery and addiction and what it's like to go, because it reminds us why it is that we do what we do. So this morning, when my grandson asked to come with me, this is my grandson William, I thought, you know, what better way to stay true to the principle of our lieutenant governor, who I know could not be here today, but you know is with us in spirit. I know she's a great environmentalist, and thank you, William, for being here. So we're on the upswing now. We have a partnership with the legislature, as you've seen, many of the legislators. We have a partnership with the administration. And now we have, as a result of the bills that we've done this past year and building on the ones we've done the years before, we finally have a framework and goals. We've got the RPS bill, if you remember our renewable portfolio bill that we did a couple of years ago, that increased the required amount of renewables in our energy mix. Now we have HB 99, which is the greenhouse gas emission reduction bill to reduce emission with goals and times in both of those bills. So we've got our goals and we've got our framework. And now with the other bills that we put in place this year and last, we also have a structure. So we have HB 99, which put in place, of course, the structure within HB 99 to make the decisions to get us to the goals. We have also our Senate Bill 7, Senate Substitute Number 1 to Senate Bill 7, which is part of the bills that will be discussed today, which expands and nearly doubles the size of our state energy office because we need to. We need to. Our state energy office was doing as much as they could with what they had, but this is a huge issue that calls much more resources to the table. So SB 7 brings those resources to the table. And I'd like to thank Dana Cobb and Tom Noyes from our state energy office for doing a yeoman's job. And we also have our Senate Bill 310 from last year, which reconstituted the Governor's Energy Advisory Council. This is huge. You might not know it, but this is a council that is now up and running of 64 people, 64 folks that come from our various governmental agencies, from DENREC, from the Public Service Commission, the Public Advocate's Office, our Sustainable Energy Utility, advocacy groups, utilities. This is bringing everyone together around the table and breaking out into 4 work groups. And if you want to be a part of the work group, please contact Tom Noyes. We can make sure that you be part of the meetings. They meet, one of these work groups meets every single week. So if you're looking for something to do, and this is an issue that's important to you, jump in to the Governor's Energy Advisory Council and the work group. So it's a work group on grid modernization, a work group on environmental justice and energy equity, energy efficiency and electrification, renewable energy, and clean technologies. So we're trying to cover as much as we can. So now we have the framework, the goals, we have the structure, and now we have the charge. Given where we are now in our energy consumption and where we want to be, taking into consideration all of our goals and this framework within which we're operating, what do we need to do in order to get there? Keeping top of mind reliability, stability of our grid, and consumer cost, including the cost of doing nothing and business as usual, because those are costs you have to take in consideration as well. We now move on to this next phase of big issues that many of our surrounding states have been grappling with, and it's time for us to be in that game too. We have to be a part of this as well. Grid modernization, energy storage, expanding our in-state renewables from simply solar. Solar is great, and we have to optimize it whenever we can, but solar is not going to get us where we need to go. It is not going to get us where we need to go, which is the point behind Senate Bill 170 and our offshore wind folks. Thank you to Willett Kempton and Peggy Schultz, who have been great advocates on this issue. And my House sponsor, Ed Ozinski, thank you so much for your leadership on this issue as well. But we've got to look at other evolving technologies also. We cannot continue to rely so heavily on coal, gas, and nuclear. We just can't. We have to expand our renewables to begin to move into that space. And those renewables have to be more than just solar. So we need to start talking about things that maybe we haven't talked a lot about before, things that maybe we were a little afraid to talk about before. We have to start talking about hydrogen. We have to start talking about biomass. Is it time to start talking about the SMRs, called the small modular reactors, which are the big things now throughout the country? We have to talk about things that are going to make us uncomfortable because we have aggressive goals. We need to have aggressive goals. We have those aggressive goals. We have the structure in place. We have the people in place now to make decisions and have those discussions, and we have to move it forward. We have the partners that we need now. We have the charge, and it is time for us to move in that direction, and we are. So I'd like to thank the governor. I'd like to thank the administration, our fellow legislators, my wonderful compadre, colleague, Senator McBride in the Senate, who was always a strong advocate for environmental issues, and all of our energy stakeholders that have given their time. All of our energy stakeholders. Remember those 64 people I told you about? Many of them are here today. Some of them are not, who give their time every Friday on either the Energy Stakeholders Group or now on the Governor's Energy Advisory Council or one of those work groups. We have a lot of people giving a lot of time, generously their time and their expertise on these issues. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take this huge boat of people, and we're going to do it. We've got it. We are ready to take off. So thank you. With that, I would like to introduce my wonderful colleague, Senator Sarah McBride.
Thank you so much, Senator Hansen. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on, this is an exciting day. Good afternoon, everyone. That's a little bit better. It's wonderful to join you all today at Lum's Pond. I was talking to Senator Hansen's grandson, William, earlier. He's been here 5 or 6 times, and apparently the last time he was here, he caught a 6-pound bass, which is really impressive. I said, I don't think I can hold a 6-pound bass, and he said, well, clearly you need to work out more. So I have my charge. First, I want to thank Senator Hansen, Representative Heffernan, Representative Phillips, Speaker Longhurst, Governor Carney, Secretary Garvin, all of my colleagues in the legislature, and everyone here today for all of your tireless work in both the public eye and behind the scenes on these issues, all of which has been critically important as we work to position our state toward renewable energy and away from the fossil fuels that we know are harmful to our natural environment and the health of our communities. Make no mistake, Governor Carney signing these bills into law today represents collectively one of the largest steps forward our state has ever taken to combat climate change. For generations, businesses, lives, and economies have been built around the harvesting, the distribution, and literal engines that depend on fossil fuels. Breaking that dependence and moving our society toward cleaner and more sustainable sources of energy is a massive undertaking, one that is dwarfed only by the existential threat that faces our world if we fail to act. Each of these bills represents a critical step forward. I'm proud to have prime sponsored alongside Representative Krista Griffith Senate Bill 103, which helps to build out our electric vehicle infrastructure and reduce costs for working families. The shift to electric vehicles is not ideological. It is imminent and it is inevitable. The auto industry here in the United States and around the world has made clear that the transition to an EV future is on the horizon. This announced shift represents one of the biggest changes to our society since the advent of the internet, and before that, the creation of the automobile itself. Such a significant step forward requires leaders in both the public and private sector to adopt proactive policies to prepare for it. We simply cannot afford to play catch-up once that EV future has arrived. By requiring the basic electric vehicle charging infrastructure be included in all new home construction in Delaware, we're helping to prepare our neighbors for this impending market shift, encouraging our communities to adopt cleaner modes of transportation, and further reducing Delaware's reliance on fossil fuels, all the while lowering costs for families in the long run. I want to make a note that this bill, Senate Bill 103, builds on really important progress made by Newcastle County government, and now ensures that we have a statewide policy and statewide standards. This bill is good public policy for our families, for our environment, and for our state. I just want to, again, thank Governor Carney for signing this bill into law today, and I look forward to working with all of you to ensure that we continue to build a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable Delaware. And with that, to ensure that we get there, we will continue to rely on the incredible advocates here today. And it is my privilege to introduce one advocate who has been at the center of this work in the Delaware General Assembly, my friend Dustin Thompson, the chapter director for Sierra Club of Delaware. Dustin.
Thank you very much. My name is Dustin Thompson, chapter director of the Sierra Club Delaware chapter. And I do want to start out, as everybody else has, as thanking so many of the folks that are here today for all their hard work. Yeah, the legislators, of course, but also all the advocates. Like, this is huge. Look around. Like, this is awesome. And the numerous people that could not be here today, but have been instrumental in getting us to where we are nonetheless. Thank you, of course, though, to all the legislators here, but there are a lot of you, so I'm not going to name each one at a time this time. I'll get you next time. But I think that's indicative of this moment that we're in this time that we're in, that you have so many elected officials here and also administrative folks here, the unsung heroes. I think it is that the case that we see these people here because they understand the importance of this moment and this time. They understand that we are reaching the brink where if we choose to do nothing, if we falter, if we do not make decisive and meaningful action, that we will be forfeiting the future of so many generations that are yet to come. These elected officials who helped on the many bills we are here to witness Governor Carney sign today, they understand that the cost of inaction at this moment, in this time, would be catastrophic to our state. I want to take a moment to recognize what we have all helped accomplish here this year, and that it is nothing short of historical. And I know that we're going to be looking back in 10 or 20 years from now and know that this was the time, this was the moment that we gave ourselves the tools that we needed desperately to fight back against a rapidly changing climate and ready our state, make it more resilient, more capable of handling the changes that are here now that we can no longer avoid. But let's be real clear where we're at right now in this moment. And that is that we are at the beginning of this fight. We're just getting started. And we've got a very, very long way to go. We're coming from way behind. The science on this has been clear for quite some time. We have a new staff member at the Sierra Club, and she likes to remind me that back in the early 2000s, when she was born, the scientists were ringing the alarm bells and screaming from the mountaintops that climate change is the existential threat that they have been trying to get us to understand. Her entire life, we've known this was a problem. We've known the issues that if we do nothing, what's going to happen. Now it's becoming more and more clear how right they were. We have no time to waste and a lot that needs to be done. And ready or not, it's all got to be done at once. We need leadership in every agency and in every governmental body. Yes, the governor, who has been instrumental and fantastic to work with on this package. But it can't just be Governor Carney. It can't just be the governor's office. It's got to be every administrative agency. It's got to be from the governor down to the town council and everybody who attends the town council. It's got to be all of us. It's got to be a team effort if we want to make the change that we need. And we got to focus on the real solutions. We simply do not have time to waste on greenwash Band-Aids or just outright climate denialism. The time for that is a long time ago. If we want any chance to meet the goals that are outlined in the Climate Change Solutions Act, we have to rapidly reduce and eliminate our reliance on fossil fuels for personal transit, for heating, cooking, energy, everywhere where there is a clear and increasingly affordable alternative option that is cleaner, more efficient, and more sustainable. These bills will help us achieve those exact goals. But it would be for naught if we make poor decisions while we're implementing them. So we all have to remain vigilant and persistent. We all got to keep in this. This is the beginning. We have one chance to turn the tides and ensure that our children's grandchildren, I have a 2-year-old daughter named Nova, to make sure that her children and grandchildren can go outside and play, that they can enjoy the benefits and the promise that this earth has provided to all of us that are here today. We have to be vigilant against false solutions and be persistent in the face of opposition, and we got to work together. But we've also got to act quickly. We've got to act decisively if we have any hope of being effective. So thank everybody that's here for all the hard work on the legislative side, on the advocacy side, on the administrative side. And I'll just leave you with this thought, this directive. I'm going to steal some words from some great orators that came before me. We must each now go and plant the seeds of trees under whose shade we will never be able to come to rest. But we can do so in the knowledge that we will have walked this earth and left it a better place for us having been here. That's the goal. That's the mission. I think that's what this package represents. So let's go forth. Let's do some good deeds. Let's plant some good seeds. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Dustin, for laying down the challenge. This is certainly not the end. It's not the beginning. Maybe it's the end of the beginning. But the hard work is ahead of us for sure. These bills that I'm about to sign, 7 of them, each of the matters that we identified as the priority earlier in the year, at the beginning of the session. You've heard from each of the sponsors of the legislation. I'm going to try to walk you through a little bit as I sign each one, starting with House Bill number 99 as amended by House Amendment number 1. We heard from Representative Heffernan and Senator Hansen. So many people here worked on this bill. It's one of those bills that needed full community support. It's one of those bills that's going to need all of us working together to reach those very aggressive goals and doing our part here in the state of Delaware. And it's my privilege to complete that good work.
Thank you.
There we go. So House Bill number 10 you've heard about from Representative Heffernan and Senator Hansen again. This requires an implementation report on school transportation fleet, and we're already started there, I might add. But this will move us along at a faster clip. That is House Bill number 10. All right. Who let the dogs out? Okay. House Bill 11 is next. Again, Representative Heffernan, Senator Huxtable, who's not here. I don't know whether the former Mayor Lewis is representing him here, but it's good to have you here with us, Ted. And this is addresses requirements around roof support for solar energy infrastructure, which was discussed.
In large commercial buildings.
There you go, in large commercial buildings. In case that wasn't clear enough, there we go. So if we have from in. Now, this one requires special attention because it is the first bill of a freshman legislator, Representative Phillips. We usually make a big deal about that, and we're going to make a big deal about this. Representative Phillips. I might add that oftentimes first bills are charter changes in small towns and maybe not of great impact or import. This is a real important piece of legislation and codifies our electric vehicle rebate program. There we go. All right. Sophie, okay. Next up, we heard just almost last there from Senator McBride and Representative Griffith. They're standing next to one another there. This, too, goes to electric vehicle charging infrastructure in buildings. Obviously, an important change that has to take place to support the transition to electric vehicles. There we go. Senate substitute number 1 for Senate Bill number 103. There we go. Okay. Okay, this one's a little esoteric. It has to do with, of course, Senator, if it's esoteric, Senator Hansen had to be the sponsor of it. So you need somebody that understands it, but it has to do with the transmission system in the grid that accommodates offshore wind, which is incredibly important. You heard Senator Hansen talking about that, and if offshore wind is going to be reality, which it is, then we're going to need these improvements. We have some other issues to raise with up at the interconnect, which I intend to do soon. There we go. And last but not least, for sure, and I know this was a huge priority for Senator Hansen, and she made the point of thanking all the folks from the Energy Office. If you could just step forward right into here. I saw Tom, but I don't know who else was back there. If there anybody. It's a small office, which is why we have this bill, to beef it up. There's Tom coming around. Here they come. Put your hands together for the state